Welcome to the Headwaters Science Center live show. I'm pulling my mask down because we're in a vaccination bubble here, and so you can hear me a little bit better. Now, last Tuesday, we did an environmental assessment by way of these invertebrates here that are all over in the waters, from the lakes to the rivers. And today we have two different samples. We had one sampler pulling one sample from the lake Plantagenet, and we pulled another sample from just beneath the dam. We're live, so come on in. If you want to look through here and see if you can find something to pull out into the assessment, I'm looking for one more weird thing if I can come up with it. So I've got one of our citizen scientists working on the collection. Yep, we're gathering collection by committee here. And we've done the assessment. We did it on Tuesday, and we're coming up with it again today to see how it relates to that. And we found a couple of exciting things, but let's start with Lake Plantagenet. Now that came out this morning, I believe, maybe last night late, but the Plantagenet sample is a little bit harder to assess. First of all, it's a lake, and some of our techniques don't go directly to a lake as well as they can go to even a pond, which might be surprising, but it has to do with concentrations. In a pond, everything is everywhere right there in a smaller space, and so you run into it, and that's one of the reasons why we get it with our 20 jabs in a pond. Whereas in the lake, we came up with some interesting things, but we did not, I'm not gonna make a full assessment. However, we did find some interesting, we've got a big dragonfly larva right there. That was a nice find. That was, they've been out for a little bit of while, but we found a late one there. We've got this guy here he was a little late. We've got this guy that came out of Plantagenet, the crayfish. He's been pretty excited. He's been messing up the samples since we started. We found actually a couple of crayfish from Plantagenet, but again, while we found caddisflies and scuds and the regular characters, cast of characters, it was hard to make a full assessment on that, given that it's a lake. We found things that we only find in waters that are mostly clean. Now let's go back over our scale. I want to show that to you while we talk it through. Here's the assessment from Lake Plantagenet. We found scuds, we found dragonfly nymph, we found left-handed snails, and we didn't really get anything over on this side here. But in this scale, what you see is you've got a weighting factor. In other words, so group one are things that are very intolerant to pollution, things like stoneflies, mayflies, and they get a weighting of 4. So when we get down to things in this category, which is mostly what we found in Lake Plantagenet. So while we can't make a full assessment because we really didn't have enough sample to do it, we're going to go with this at least in this second group where the moderately intolerant creatures are. Now in group 3, we find things that are a little more tolerant to pollution, and so we only give them a ranking of 2. In the bottom group, there's the most tolerant creatures. They can live, some of these can live right in sewage water, and they only get a ranking of 1. Now this scale favors diversity. Diversity is good. Generally speaking, biologically, diversity leads to ecological integrity. So the more different things we find on this list, this is the exhaustive list of what we're looking for to find. The more of these things we find, the higher is our index figure. And so while we can't make it here with this, we can with the river sample. And again, we're going to go with, yeah, but we found good stuff, so we're not totally dismayed by that. All right, so let's move on to the assessment we made for the Mississippi River. And there were a couple of things. Maybe we can show this camera shot right now that's cooperating with us. We found these caddisflies. Can we move to that one? Will that go in? So we've got a couple of cameras. We're trying some new techniques today, so bear with us. Sometimes it takes us a couple of seconds to get them up. We're not up. Are we up? If not, I'm still talking you through.
Yeah, they still have audio for you.
We have audio, and I think we're having it. Now we've got it here. Oh, we've had it.
We will. 1 second.
We didn't there it is.
Now we're screaming that out.
Can you help me with the focus on this? And here it is. There's the head of it. That is, now we're going live with that. All right, there's the caddisfly. Settling down a little bit. Got a kind of a weird glare in there. Let me see if I can make that go away. How the glare is.
Turn the light up and down with this roller here.
Okay, let's bring the light down a little bit. There is one of our favorite critters that we love to find. That's the caddisfly. And the caddisfly is often hard to see because they live in pieces of the very stream that they're found in. And you can see this one is in kind of a hollowed out piece of plant matter. but if you watch it, you'll see it stick its head out, and this is definitely a predator. It will look for things to gobble up that it surprises from living into its shell there. So there's that was the king, sort of the. If we could go back to why don't we keep it here for a second, Ryan, so we don't have to do that. This was the surprise of the day. This was what we found that we thought was wow. Maybe you guys are already onto the wow, but that's a stonefly right there. Stonefly. It's not alive. It is only the exoskeleton, but we found this stonefly further downstream than we've ever found stoneflies in the Mississippi River. So we just put it on the index, and it's going to get a full 4 today. I'm going to revise this perhaps, but finding a stonefly past Bemidji was an exciting find, because usually we only find those up at the headwaters. All right, we can go back to this other camera, I think. Now that's what we really wanted to show with those two views. We're still going to do that full assessment for the Mississippi River just past the power dam. And we did put stonefly on the list because, as you've seen, we found it. I'm froze here.
Yeah.
Okay, but my audio's live, and so I'm going to tell you this. Our assessment today was very much like the one we found before, and I'll go through what we have, and here I am again. Let's bring the camera down onto this tray. We've been crowdsourcing this assessment for the last hour and a half or so, and again, we've got scuds. Scuds are fine. They're on our list. They made the check. We've got whirligigs. We've got, what else do we get? Damselflies. And if you're paying attention out there, you're going to know that we're seeing dragonflies, but fewer damsels. They're coming. They usually happen later in the summer. We got lots of damselflies. We got another caddisfly right there. The scuds are the freshwater shrimp that the fish eat. They all escaped. We had them all in one of these things, and they all made a break for it and kind of messed up their sample. But that's okay. Ooh, what's here? What's that? What's that? Oh, that's another scud. Okay, that's one that got in that collection. So, damselflies, scuds, typical stuff, but our beautiful creature, the stonefly, made it into the assessment. Woo! All right, so we've never seen him this far down the river, so we're happy to see that. Much else to add? Are there any questions out there? We've got a new scientist just showed up. Katura, you got anything to add to our live assessment here? This was Lake Plantagenet. This is the Mississippi River, usual cast of characters, but we included the stonefly today. And
what's the difference between the lakes and the rivers? Maybe you've already talked about
with regard to assessment, lakes are tricky. Things tend to be spread all out, and people don't usually take a sample all the way around the lake. But in the river, you kind of get the same here as you get there for a while until you get a change or a gradation of tolerance or difference in how the quality of that goes. But generally speaking, we find things easier in the river because we always search for, and this is our gathering device of choice, we always search for structure. We look for trees that are down. That's where we find our caddisflies. We look for different kinds of vegetation. I get in the muckier, kind of cattailier things, I tend to find my dragonflies and damsels. And I always look for different vegetation, because when I get different vegetation or a different structure, I can usually find different creatures. Now, I'm not going for in-water 4 feet. I'm usually looking for in-water that's 2 feet or less, because that's where these animals live. And they're waiting to have their life in the stream, and then many of them will be born out this summer, find their mates, and repopulate other sections of the stream or lake. We couldn't make a full assessment of the lake today, but we did make what do you got there?
I thought it was a leech, but it's
We need one more thing to bring this assessment over the top, so if your fast eyes can get it before the broadcast is up, we can bring this assessment up.
Did you find any caddisflies?
We did find caddisflies. We have one isolated right there. Is one right there.
So the things we're finding are
You have another case?
larval forms primarily, right?
Right, and these animals spend most of their lives in the water, in the larval form. They winter over underwater, and then a lot of them do their breeding in the summer, and some of them don't even, like some of the mayflies don't even have mouths, so they just, what do you got there? We're looking for, if we could find a left-handy.
So those of you who've been watching the shows for a while, I remember
We've got another right.
found in the rock basses, I think it was stomach, in one of our fish filleting.
Oh!
We were talking about how one of their camouflages didn't quite work out for them.
So the bass wasn't fooled and ate it anyways. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to call it here. We're running out, unless you can quickly find something that makes our list here. We're looking, you know, what's in there might be missing is a right-handed gill snail. They're pretty common. What do you got there?
I'm not sure, actually.
What is that? Let's take a peek at that. You might have, oh, what do we have? Is that
I probably squished it a little bit.
It is a little squish.
There's two of them in here.
I think it's another caddisfly. It's one of the naked caddisflies. And just a quick assessment.
Yeah.
And we can't count caddisflies twice, although I think in the revised version I might want to. If I can ID 2 different species, I'm going to count them again. So I'm going to revise this one. This one was built for out Indiana, essentially. The Hoosier River Watch crew they're top notch. They've got a lot of great things on the web. So if you're ever looking to do a stream assessment, do hit Hoosier River Watch. They've been a good provider for data sheets. But I'm gonna, and I've done it once before, revise this because I never find water pennies, and that's why. That's my. You got a lefty here? There's another right. If we could find a left, we'd be in business. But we're gonna call it. We have to call it at some point. So we've got 2 in the most intolerant. That's an 8. We'll mark that down. We got an 8. We're still doing an assessment. We're live, by the way. Okay, so we get an 8 in that category. We've got 4 in the moderately intolerant. That gives us a 12. We're up to 20, and we're up to 20. So we're looking for 23. The last time we did this assessment, we ended up with a 21. So whatever's going on here, we're getting pretty certain that we're looking at, and by our scale, that's good. If we could have found 1 more of these intolerant creatures, we would have called it excellent.
So we want a higher number because that implies
the higher number implies
cleaner,
more diversity and more of these intolerant creatures, which is what shows water
so the
quality.
intolerant creatures are worth more points than the.
They are, and they should be, because they cannot exist in the worst of waters, only the best of waters. And the best of waters would be waters that are clean, clear from pollution, and have a relatively large amount of oxygen available. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting good assessment here. That's a scud. Is because we're south of a dam, which actually churns up some oxygen. Yeah, so we're capturing things. We're going to let our assessment go on. If we change it, we'll call you all back and tell you we went to excellent. We're looking for this thing to go to excellent, but time is time, and you guys have time to spend in other places too. So we're going to sign off here from the Headwaters scientists, unless there's a question out there.
Oh, the electric co-op.
Oh, and by the way, we are funded by the Roundup program from Beltrami Electric Co-op, and we thank them again for bringing us live again here at the Headwaters Science Center live show, which we have been running daily, and we're quite proud of for the last 8 months. Is it, Ryan?
That November, I think.
Just a long time. We're doing really well on this show. We're having it a lot, and we're doing it a lot. So we're going to keep assessing on. We got some more citizen scientists that just showed up here, and a few of the green-shirted scientists, so we might just find our next thing.
And we just recently started being open 7 days a week again.
That is so true. So we're open to the public 7 days a week. Our school season is over, and come and see us. We have a lot of fun here.